Hit record. Okay, get yourself ready for your practice. Sit yourself on a lift and come into cross leg position. So feel that you are sitting even. Both seat bones feel level, and just have a little wriggle about, maybe move the buttock flesh back and out to the side just to expose the seat bones to the cushion, and then hold onto your knees. Lift up into your heart area, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Just look down at the floor, look at something that's not moving. Spend a few moments just to gather your breath. So filling the lungs from the bottom to the top. Emptying your lungs from the top to the bottom. Spending time just gathering your breath, gathering yourself together, gathering your thoughts. Focus of the thoughts comes from concentration on the breath. So observe the physical sensations of the inhalation, the chest rising upwards and outwards and expanding into the armpit chest and into the back chest with the inhalation, and then the relaxation of the chest with the out breath. Keep your eyes still, looking at something on the floor that doesn't move. And then bring your hands into Namaste. Press the palms firmly together, lengthen from the armpits into the elbows into the heels of the hands. And then allow your eyes to gently close. So observe the breath. Keep the mind occupied with the action of the breath. So you might think that the breath doesn't provide a great deal for the mind to become drawn into. However, when you really analyse the breath, there's plenty. There is the feeling of the breath as the chest rises upwards and outwards. There's the sound of the breath. There's the evenness of the breath, ensuring that you breathe evenly into both lungs, evenly out of both lungs. And there's the length and the duration, which is obviously the same thing, of the breath. Just listen, feel, observe. So all of those actions become possible when we draw our attention into the breath. because observation of the sensations of the pose is a way in to the pose beyond just the physical exertion. So through asana, we energize the body with the breath. And then through the breath, through the focused concentration on the breath, we can withdraw the senses, bring in observation into the physical body. And that isn't just observing the areas of discomfort. You aim to draw your focus and attention into areas beyond the discomfort, beyond the areas of sensation. So as you continue to breathe, as you focus on the breath, draw your attention into areas of non-sensation or minimal sensation, into the fingertips, into the toes, into the legs. All the while maintaining the observation of the breath, its sensation and its sound, in its physical manifestation. Draw your chin down to meet your chest, maintaining that physical observation. Spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. Holding on to that feeling of abundance in the heart area, gently release your hands down to meet your knees with the palms upwards and the tip of the index finger in contact with the tip of the thumb. Stretching the fingers away from the other fingers away from the palms in a gesture of peacefulness and wisdom. And then as you holding on to that feeling of positive abundance, as you raise your head and allow your eyes to softly open. Just hold onto your knees and elevate the heart area up to the ceiling. Draw your shoulders down away from your ears. And then bring your chin forwards and down to meet the chest, keeping the shoulders away from the ears. Take a deep inhalation, and with the exhalation, draw the chin up to the ceiling. Really pushing the chin as high to the ceiling as you can to stretch the front of the neck. Keeping the shoulders down, keeping the heart area lifted. Take a deep inhalation. And with the exhalation, bring your chin down to meet your chest. Feeling the stretch at the back of the neck, drawing your your shoulders away from your ears. Take a deep inhalation, and with the exhalation, drive the chin to the ceiling. And with an exhalation, just bring the head to the center. Take a deep inhalation, and then on the exhalation, right ear down to right shoulder, but keeping both shoulders away from the ears. So you lengthen into that left side of the neck. Take an inhalation, and on the exhalation, come back to the center and the left ear to left shoulder. Stretching out the right side of the neck. And with the next exhalation, come back to the center and just one more time, right ear over to the right shoulder. And on an out breath, left ear to left shoulder. And then come back to the center. Hold onto your knees, lift up into the heart area. Elevating the heart area to the ceiling. Drawing your shoulders down. Take a deep inhalation. And then with the exhalation, turn to the right side. Just drawing your focus and consciousness into the resulting sensation of the pose. Drawing the abdomen across. And the ribs and the shoulders. But drawing your focus beyond just the spine and the response to the turn, but drawing your consciousness into areas of non-resistance. And observe how the feeling of the pose changes, the consciousness of the pose changes. And then come back to the center. Hold onto your knees, lift up into the chest. Broadening and lifting the chest. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the left. Drawing the abdomen across the ribs. Again, just being conscious of those physical sensations of the pose. And draw the consciousness into the areas of non-resistance, evenly with the areas of resistance. So you start to feel the skin from the face to the feet. But of course, that needs to begin with observation. And through observation, action, and through action, we become sensitive to the pose. We heighten our sensitivity to the sensations of the pose. Come back to the center and then come off your lift. Just come onto all fours. Have your little fingers on the edge of the mat. Stretch the thumbs towards each other. Really spread the palm. bring the feet as wide apart as the mat, just step back a little. And then with bent knees, come up into dog down, bend in the knees initially so that you can feel that you can elevate the tailbone and the seat bones up towards the ceiling so that you can draw the shoulder blades in. So with bent knees initially, just elevating the seat bones and the heels to the ceiling, and then gently straightening the legs, tightening the kneecaps, pressing the fronts of the knees through to the backs of the knees, spreading the toes, pushing the fronts of the thighs into the backs of the thighs, pushing the fronts of the shins into the backs of the shins. Just observe how your body responds this morning. Is it reluctant to activate or engage? Is one side of the body more willing to engage than the other? So find that balance of action. Find that evenness of action from the inside. So between one leg and the other, between one arm and the other, but between the arms and the legs, between the arms and the spine and the legs, the spine and the legs, the spine and the arms. Just again, reading the sensations of the pose and moving beyond the initial resistance to inundate the body with a sensation of action. Step your feet forwards, just come up into a standing position, and then get a couple of blocks for your hands for half uttanasana. Just maintaining in between the poses that observation of the action of the body. So we place our feet with precision, our feet as wide apart as the mat with the toes turning inwards. Have your hands on your hips, lift up into your chest, and then bring your arms up to the ceiling. Have them wide so that you elevate the heart area to the ceiling. Activate the legs by pressing the kneecaps firmly into the sockets, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards, hitting the inner knees away from each other, and lifting the inner knees up towards the groin. And then come forwards, hinging at the hips, keeping the back straight, keeping the head lifted, hinging at the hips. And then bring your hands onto the blocks just underneath your shoulders, beyond fingertips. So in classes, I often see this. So it's just like the heels of the hands come down onto the floor. So just bring your heels of the hands onto the blocks for a second. And then just notice that all that happens is that you basically collapse into your arms. And then very little can happen in the legs. But just feel how that kind of heaviness kind of instantly overtakes the pose. So then if you go up onto the fingertips, then it instantly becomes a lift in action from the fingertips into the palms, into the wrists, into the elbows, up into the armpits. And then the legs can activate, tightening the kneecaps, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards, doing that dog down action with the legs. Just filling the lungs evenly. If you can go down lower, then do, but if you've got a bad back, stay up at the higher lift. So breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. As you come down, keep the legs hitting back so that your weight remains in your heels. If you can reach the floor without it aggravating your back, then do. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Maintaining that consciousness of the expansion of the breath. Breathe in from the bottom of the lungs to the top, breathing into both lungs evenly, breathing out of both lungs evenly, exhaling from the top of the lungs to the bottom. If you can, you can keep your back straight, then reach around the backs of your heels, but keeping the spine extended. We're not trying to draw the head in between the legs instantly. We're trying to keep the spine long. Bend your elbows out to the side, and then draw the body through the space between the legs. But just stay at whichever stage is right for your back. This can be a little strong for a stiff back. And then release your hands, just come back into half uttanasana. Just notice that maybe at first your hands feel heavy on the floor. So reactivate your legs. Lift out of the fingertips into the wrists, into the armpits. And then bring your hands into your hips. Bend your knees on the way up if you need to, and then come up into Tadasana. So just have the inner edge of the feet together, and then lift up into the chest. Just focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. Just bringing that same activation in uttanasana into Tadasana. The activation of the legs, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards, hitting the fronts of the thighs into the backs of the thighs. Hitting your weight back so that your weight is in your heels. Tucking the tailbone in this time. Lifting from the bladder region up into the abdomen, up into the diaphragm, up into the collarbone. Keeping the shoulders down. Stretch your arms out in front, drawing your consciousness into each individual finger, each individual toe. And then interlock the fingers, turn the palms all the way out, don't worry about cracks and pops. That's good. And then raise your arms over your head. Keeping the arms straight, keeping the little finger side of the hand connected, keeping the thumbs connected. Lengthening the arms beyond your ears, opening up the armpits. Go back to the toes, go back to the feet. Observing how the feet are interacting with the legs, with the hips, with the torso, with the arms. So it should always feel like you're lifting up and out of the floor to bring a sensation of lightness. Release your hands and then swap the interlock of the fingers. Just feel how the shoulders are warming up, and then bring the palms all the way out and then raise your arms over your head. Maintaining the consciousness of the sensation of the pose, the sensations and the outcomes of the breath. So there's plenty within the pose itself to engage the brain. It's probably too much. So we can at least aim to engage the brain within just the physical manifestation of the pose. face your arms, and then just come back into Tadasana. Just feeling the warmth in the hands, in the wrists and the forearms and the upper arms and the shoulders. Almost all the way up into the neck. But what about the feet? Draw your consciousness also into the feet so that you can see the body in 3 dimensions through the feeling of the pose. Bring your arms out nice and wide in toward your chest. Step or jump the feet nice and wide. And then turn your left toes in and your right leg and foot all the way out. Just observe how the feet connect to the ground. Try and lift the insteps by lifting the inner heel into the ankle bone of that back foot. Turning both legs outwards, bringing the chest to face the front. Just feel how both legs press down into the floor, but then you can suck from the feet up into the hips, up into the spine. Bring your arms out wide and then come over, but don't lose that back leg. Remember that technique of pushing that back foot into an imaginary wall. Breathing even, deep inhalations and exhalations, listening to the breath. So try not to collapse into that right leg, really firmly activate that left leg, turning the abdomen to face the ceiling. Using whatever equipment you need to assist the pose if there is discomfort or pain. And then come back to the center. Just swap your feet around, turn the right toes in, the left leg and foot all the way out, lifting up into the chest, bringing the chest back to face the front, turning the legs, both legs from the inside out. Pressing that back heel firmly into the floor as you come over. Keeping that length in the spine from that back heel. Keep breathing evenly into both lungs. Filling the lungs from the bottom to the top, emptying them from the top to the bottom, just being conscious of the physical sensations of the breath and of the pose. And then come back to the center, bring the feet parallel, and then step or jump your feet back together, coming back up into Tadasana. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Just listening to the breath. Observe how the legs feel as though they have just come to life a little. And then we're going to do Virabhadrasana 1. So bring your arms out wide in towards your chest, and then step or jump the feet apart nice and wide with the legs. Turn the left toes in really steeply and the right leg and foot all the way out, and then swing your arms around so that your chest is facing that front leg. And then pick up the back heel, turn that back heel all the way out, and then bring the heel down. So the hips, if you bring your hands onto your hips, that action of turning the heel out perhaps helps you to bring this back leg hip around so that they feel level. Raise your arms up and then bend the front leg, but try and keep that back heel down, keep that back leg straight. If the back heel lifts, it's not the end of the world, but keep it extending into the heel. Lift out of the hips, up into the spine. Find a right angle with that front leg. Just breathing evenly. If you can look up between your hands. Keeping that back leg really straight, tighten at the kneecap. Okay, straighten the leg. Let's come back to the front. Just feel the body filling with energy. Just take some deep inhalations and exhalations to get your breath back. And then stretch your arms out. Bring your right toes in, the left leg and foot all the way out. And then swing the shoulders to face the left leg. Pick up the heel of that back foot, turn it out so that when you bring your hands onto your hips feel like they're in line with each other. And then raise your arms and then bend the front leg. Keep the back leg really firm. So as you can see, my back heel is lifted, but I'm keeping the kneecap tightened. Lift out of the hips, up into the chest. Pushing into that back heel even if it's lifted. So finding a right angle with that front knee. And then come back to the center. And then step or jump the feet back together. Just observing how the upper body especially gets inundated with energy. So spend a little time breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, allowing the energy to settle. So raise your arms up, hook the thumbs into the crease of the elbows. If you've got a bad back, then just bring your arms onto the wall or onto the back of a chair. Bring your feet hip width apart, turning your toes in, and then hinge at the hips. If you've got a bad back, stay halfway like this, with your arms on a chair or a table or the wall. Otherwise, just hang down. Activating your legs. So turning the fronts of the thighs inwards, like in Virabhadrasana 1. Lifting out of the toes, into the heels, into the shins, into the thighs, into the hips. Just focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. And then gently release your hands down to the floor. Bring your hands into your hips and then come up into a standing position. And then just come back up into Tadasana. Just lifting up into the chest. Just observing the energy of the pose. And then just come down onto your knees and sit back on your heels. Just let your legs recover from the standing poses, just sitting back on the heels. So this is always a good position to sit in after you've been on a long walk, or if you've been on your feet all day. Really restorative action for your legs. So just sitting back on your heels and just work to elevate the heart area upwards, drawing your shoulders down. Just observing the energy that you have released through your practice so far. That feeling of warm energy, of lightness of energy, radiating out of the bones into the muscles, into the organs, and then keeping the seat bones down on the heels, come forwards into Adho Mukha Virasana. Keeping your head lifted as you come forward, pressing the palms into the floor and really stretching the upper chest, lifting the heart area. And then gently bringing the chest down to the floor, so it's the chest to the floor first, not the head. The head comes last. And then just bring the forehead down onto the floor. Aim to keep the seat bones in contact with the heels. Just listen to the breath. Allow there to be a little pressure on the forehead. So Adho Mukha Virasana. And then just keep your head on the floor. And then rest your arms at the sides of the legs for the traditional child's pose. So the pressure on the forehead may become a little greater. If it becomes too heavy on your head, then just consciously lengthen from the shoulders and into the fingertips. But that gentle pressure on the forehead allows the frontal lobes of the brain to quieten down. And then bring your hands underneath your shoulders, push yourself up into a seated position, and then just sit back on your heels, just observing the quietness of the brain that comes from coming out of a forward bend, the lightness of your energy. And then get yourself a bolster and a blanket for your head. So just fold the blanket into a little pillow configuration and then just come down onto your back. So before we go down, just sit in cross legs. Just lift up into the chest, elevating the heart area upwards, just being conscious of a huge flow of energy that we have released. And then turn to the right side, drawing your abdomen across, ribs and your shoulders, just maintaining that consciousness of resistance and sensation and energy. And then come back to the center. Hold on to the knees, lift up into the chest, and then turn to the left. And then come back to the center. Bring the feet into baddangulyasana, so the soles of the feet are together, drawing the feet in towards the seat bones. Just hold on to the big toes. And then lift up into the chest, really lifting the heart area up towards the ceiling. Sometimes it can be difficult to lift the chest from holding onto the big toes, so you can hold onto the shins. And then maybe that gives you more of a lift. Maintain that lift of the chest, sit just an inch or two away from the bolster, and then maintain that lift of the heart area as you lengthen your spine along the floor, and then bring your head down onto the bolster. At this stage, just assess whether the pose feels comfortable in your back. And then just allow yourself to just release into the pose, but keeping the feet firmly engaged. So feeling the openness of the chest. Just listen to the breath as it enters and as it exits. Feeling the broadness of the ribs. Just filling your lungs from the bottom to the top. Emptying your lungs from the top to the bottom. Just feeling how the chest rises upwards and outwards with the in-breath. And relaxes with the out-breath. Feeling the stretch of the intercostal muscles with the in-breath and the subsequent relaxation with the exhalation. Just listen to the sound of the breath, observing that the in-breath and the out-breath sound different. The sound originates in different places. So the in-breath originates, the sound of the in-breath originates at the nostrils, the sound of the out-breath originates at the back of the throat. Just observing the rise and the fall of the breath. Observing the energy that flows around the body. Observing the skin from the face to the feet. And then just push your elbows into the floor. Lift the chest, try not to poke your head forwards as you come up into a seated position. Just sit yourself and cross the legs with your hands on your knees, lift up into the chest. Just observe your energy. Observe your breath. Observing the physical sensations of the pose. Observing how the skin makes contact with the mat and with the air and with your clothing. And then just remove the bolster from behind you. Just bring the blanket onto your mat for your head. And then just come down onto your back, but with the bolster underneath your knees, just to help you just really let go in the spine. So make sure, even though you've got the bolster underneath your knees, that you can rest in a straight line. And then just release into the floor. Just listening to the sound of the breath. Focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. Consciously let go of the muscles of the arms and the legs and the chest and the neck and the face and the hands and the feet. So that in one turn the body becomes heavy on the ground, but in the other it becomes light as energy radiates from bones into the muscles, into the organs and the flesh and the skin. Just engaging with the lightness of your energy. Just basking in that feeling of energetic lightness. Ready to disturb yourself, just wriggle your toes, wriggle your fingers, and then bend your knees. Bring your feet onto the bolster, have the feet apart, the knees together. Just resting your spine into the floor. And then draw your knees in towards your chest. Just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom. Just a gentle massage on the spine. And then gently roll over onto your right side. Stay down for a breath or two. And then straighten out the top leg, come back up into the seated position. Just a final cross legs with your hands in the masti. Just a final spinal lift. Draw your breath in through your nose down into the abdomen. Feeling that you are grounding your energy and becoming conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice. Gently draw your chin down to meet your chest. Lifting the chest up to meet your chin. Spend a moment to just acknowledge the positive energy you have created inside. And then send some of that positive energy out into the world. And then release your hands down to meet your knees, palms facing upwards. Just connecting the index finger with the thumb, stretching the other fingers away from the palm, a gesture of peacefulness and wisdom. And as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open. And the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. So hopefully you feel like you really lifted your energy. Give yourself lots of good, positive energy